Hare Krishna. ISKCON Chennai welcomes you to another session of Srimad Bhagavatam, day 15. Today we'll continue the story of Bhakta Prahalad. Before that, we will chant the prayers together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So we'll have a short recap of what we had done in the last class. Prahlada Maharaj, when he spoke about devotional service to Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyakashipu, he instructs the sons of Shukracharya, Shanda and Amarka, that you take care that my son does not come under the influence of any devotees who may come to the ashram in disguise and spoil his son. So Sanda and Amarka, they take good care of Prahlad. They educate him on Artha, Dharma and Kama, and they send him all dressed up, and they send him to Hiranyakashipu. Prahlada, he prostrates before Hiranyakashipu and looking at the child, at the 5-year-old child. Like any father, Hiranyakashipu, he lifts his 5-year-old son and places him on his lap. And he tells him that you have been away for such a long time. So now what have you learned? What do you think is the best lesson that you have learned? He asks Prahlad again. So Prahlad, he immediately he tells about the 9 stages of devotional service. He says, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. So he says these are the 9 processes of devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Now Vishnu is the greatest enemy of Hiranyakashipu. We saw this till the last in the last class. Now what was the reaction of Hiranyakashipu once he heard this? He immediately got angry because he thought this was taught by Shanda and Amarka. So he gets so angry on them that he chastises the teachers that what have you trained him? You have taught him about my enemy, and he scolds them like anything. So Sanda and Amarka, they tell Hiranyakashipu that they have not taught him any such thing. They have not taught him anything about Lord Vishnu. They said that Prahlad Maharaj, he has this instructions. He is automatically a devotee, and he is telling these instructions on his own. It was not taught by them, and it was not correct on the part of Hiranyakashipu to chastise the sons of Brahmana. It is they are the sons of Shukracharya. So they say you are not right in chastising us. This is not the way you talk to a Brahmana. They remind him that. So then Hiranyakashipu asks Prahlad, from where did you learn this Vishnu Bhakti? Who taught to you? Who taught you about Vishnu? Fearlessly, Prahlad says, Matir na Krishne parata svatova mito bhipadyet graha vritanam adanta gobir vishatam tamishram puna punascharvita charvananam. He's saying because of the uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress towards hellish condition and repeatedly chew that has already been chewed. Their inclination toward Krishna are never aroused either by the instruction of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. That is trying to tell his father that he is totally under the control of material senses, and that is why he is not able to understand about Lord Vishnu. And he says that the materialist life only makes progress towards hellish condition, because despite of having so many sufferings in this material world, still the person thinks that again he will enjoy material life by working hard on the material platform. So he says that their inclination towards Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, or by their own effort, or by a combination of both. So it has to come from within, or it has to come by taking the shelter of a spiritual master. So what does he mean by saying repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed? Now, when you take a sugar cane, you take out all the juice from the sugar cane completely, you take out everything, and then again you try to chew on it. What will you get? There will be nothing. It will be totally dry, devoid of all juice. So, a materialistic person, he does this only. He, in his material life, what he does is he thinks that each time he will take this birth in this material life, he'll enjoy more. Actually, what is he doing? In this material life, people are only busy doing four things: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And this also, the animals also do this, the same thing. So, what is the difference between us and the animals? So, at every birth, if we are going to do only this eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, so that means we are chewing the chewed. There is no juice left in the sugar cane, but still you keep on chewing. So, materialistic persons are ignorant, they are greedy, they are in the wrong path, and they are terribly entangled. And the only way to come out of this entanglement is by taking the shelter of a spiritual master or a Mahatma who is always thinking only of the Lord and nothing else. Only such a Mahatma can help this person come out of this material entanglement. So here in this shloka it is said that those who are entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who are therefore accepted as their leader, a guru, a similar blind man attached to external sense objects, cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home back to Godhead and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. So now we have seen here that Hiranyakashipu's guru is Shukracharya. And actually, the duty of the spiritual master is to teach the living entity how to come out of this material entanglement and to go back to Godhead. So, only by service or only by devotional service to Lord Vishnu can you come out of this. Whereas Shukracharya is not teaching anything of this sort, nor his sons, they are also not teaching anything of this sort. So they are busy teaching only how to live in this material life. So that is why such a guru is called a blind man. He is called an andha. Andha means blind man, and he is guided and he guides the other blind men to the path and fall into the ditch. That is, this material life is like a dark well which is full of problems, and a guru is a person who with the acts of knowledge he destroys the ignorance of what? Ignorance of spiritual life, ignorance of service to the Lord. So he has to take out that ignorance and he should teach the materialistic people how to come out of this strong rope of material nature. What is the strong rope of material nature? The three gunas which we see. The conditioned soul is entangled with the three gunas and is unable to come out on his own. So only a Mahatma, a Mahat Atma, that is a person who has seen the absolute truth, only can bring this person out of it. Now, like if a person is totally bound by ropes, only a person who is free can free this person from the entanglement of rope. If he himself is bound, then he cannot free such a person. So this person should be free. And who is that? The perfect person is the Lord and his representative, that is the spiritual master. So if the master he does not teach how to leave this material world and go to the spiritual world, then he is andha and he is leading all other blind men to the dark well where they're always suffering from the threefold miseries. And what are the threefold miseries? Adhyatmika, Adibhaudika, and Adidaivika. Adhyatmika means you are tortured by your own mind. Adibhaudika is you're tortured by others like neighbors or mosquitoes or whatever outside factors which tortures you. And Adi Devika is the external forces or like the you have this Daivic forces like tsunami, earthquake, and all that. So these threefold miseries you cannot escape in this material world. Now, after hearing this, he began, Prahlad Maharaj, after telling this, he became silent. And Hiranyakashipu was so furious that in anger he threw him off his lap. Imagine, just a moment ago, he was embracing him and hugging him, and his eyes were full of tears while he was looking at his child, a 5-year-old child. The moment he spoke about Lord Vishnu, his greatest enemy, he was so blinded by anger that he threw his child off the lap. So, what happens here? When your ego is hurt, that time the anger arises to such an extent that you go to the extent of destroying the person you love the most. So the ego is like a sleeping snake in everybody. It need not be Hiranyakashipu. All of us, we have ego which is silent, and we think our relationships are good as long as the other person does not provoke us. We have created an ego for ourselves, which is called false ego or ahankar, which we have created an image of ourselves. And if that is challenged by somebody, then immediately that ego is hurt and anger arises, and uh, it leads to destruction. Just like Hiranyakashipu, he treated his son, he just threw him from his lap, and he tells that you take this boy away because his ego was hurt, and his enemy Lord Vishnu was praised, and all the devotional service should be done to Lord Vishnu. When it was told to him, he could not tolerate it, and he tells the demons, he orders the demons to take this boy away, and he says he deserves to be killed. Kill him as soon as possible. So, what explanation he gives for that, for killing his son? He says that if a person outside the family, though outside the Asura family, but he is very favorable to these people, then they can be considered as their own son. But if a limb, any part, one part of the body is severely infected, then it is advisable to cut off the limb so that the infection does not spread to the other parts of the body. So he also says that for a yogi, their greatest enemy is when they cannot control their senses, the uncontrollable senses, which obstructs them from going into the spiritual path, cannot be controlled, and therefore they are not able to progress in the spiritual path. In the same way, Prahalad, he should be killed because he is my enemy. Just as the uncontrolled senses are the enemies of a yogi, Prahalad is my enemy because I cannot control him, and therefore you should kill him. This is the order he gives to his demoniac associates. Now, Hiranyakashipu, though his child was so small, he did not hesitate to kill him just because he praised his enemy. So he says that he is only a 5-year-old and he is talking to such an extent. So how can I trust him? This attitude of him is going to spread to other Asura children also. So he has to be killed immediately. So this is also the attitude of non-devotees towards devotees. That is, the non-devotees, they don't like when the devotees talk about Lord Vishnu. So they also try to attack the devotees, as we are seeing today in many cases, how the devotees are being attacked by the non-devotees. So how he tries to kill Prahlad. So he sends the demons and he asks them to kill him. So they take the tridents and they start piercing the child's tender body with their tridents. But the child was so absorbed in Lord Vishnu and he was always chanting the names of the Lord Vishnu that the tridents never reached his body at all. So they could not harm him anyway. Then next what they did was they threw him below the feet of the big elephants. But again he was protected by Lord Vishnu. Then they threw him from the top of a mountain. But Lord Vishnu again he saved the child Prahalada. So in this way, they tried doing when they tried administering poison, but nothing harmed him. They tried stopping him, giving food to him and water to him. Everything was stopped, but still nothing affected Prahlada because he was in the spiritual consciousness. He was always in Krishna consciousness, having total faith in Lord and only chanting the Lord's names. So they tried many things. They even tried to throw heavy stones on him to crush him, but Lord Vishnu saved him all the time. There is also a story in Vishnu Puran where his aunt, that is Hiranyakashipu's sister, her name was Simika. She had a boon from Agni Deva that the fire will not harm her in any way. So, what she suggests to her brother is that you don't get upset because this child is not being killed in any way. I have got a boon from Agni Dev, so I will sit with him on a pyre of fire and I will make him sit on my lap. Um, the fire will not harm me, and Prahlad will be burnt to ashes. So you don't worry about this. We will finish off this child in a very simple manner. Hiranyakashipu is also very happy because he wants that Prahlad should be killed. Now he is so furious that he considers Prahlad to be his greatest enemy, and he agrees to his sister sitting with his son on the fire. So the fire is built, and the fire is lit, and Simhika sits on the fire, and she takes the child on her lap. But what happens is the Agni Dev, it does not affect Prahlad because of Lord Vishnu's mercy. And slowly she starts to get burnt, and she hears the Akashvani saying that this blessing was given to you only for doing good deeds, but you are in the process of destroying the Lord's devotee, and hence this blessing will not work on you. Saying this, the voice disappeared, and Simika, she got burnt totally, whereas Prahalada, there was not a slight scar on his body. So this is a event which is celebrated the day before Holi, called Holika, because she is also called Holika. So what actually it means is that when she was burnt, the entire sinful tendency is burnt. So that is why before Holi, they burn this wooden fire, significantly signifying that it means the destruction of all sins is put into the fire. So after this, after witnessing this also, Hiranyakashipu, now he lost all hope how to kill his son. He knew that his son was very powerful and nothing could be done. So he saw that he was a great devotee and nothing, he could not kill him in any way. What is to be done? And he was very morose. How could he kill him? He was in great anxiety. Now, what to do? Because his son is being protected by the Supreme Lord in all ways. So, his Guru's sons, that is Shukracharya's sons, they say, why are you being so morose? He's after all only a 5-year-old child. Even when you just lift an eyebrow, the entire demigods and all the others, they shiver in fright, and you are worried that what to do about this boy. He is only 5 years old. We will take care of him, you don't worry. We will again take him to the ashram and we will instruct him on artha, dharma and kama. So you don't worry about it. We will be very strict with him, they say, and they take the boy again. So Hiranyakashipu, okay, he agreed with them and he sent his son again to the ashram, where they started teaching him on economic development, religion is dharma, economic development is artha, and sense gratification is kama. But Prahalada, he was not interested in such instructions because he was situated about that. He had already received the higher instructions from the spiritual master Narada. So for him, the instructions on religion, economic development and sense gratification did not interest him one bit. So, what do you learn from this? Devotees actually serious about advancing spiritual life should give up the company of non devotees and always keep company with devotees. That is Asat Sang Tyag. Why? Because when you are advancing in spiritual life, even a little diversion of a person who is not interested in spiritual life will be a hindrance in the person who is trying to advance in spiritual life. Why? Because our senses are so strong that we see even great yogis are not able to control the senses. So when you are advancing in spiritual life, it is better you be in the associate of persons in spiritual life. Why? Because now suppose for example, if Mr. A, he is advancing in spiritual life and he has got a friend B who is not at all interested in spiritual life but always engrossed in material life. So though this person he does not have any interest in material life, by constantly keeping company with the person who is materialistic and who is anchoring for material life, his desires, they will have an impact on this person who is trying to advance in spiritual life. So that is why it is better to avoid such company, because because it's very easy to fall down. So it is better to avoid people who are not spiritually inclined and to keep company with persons who are interested in spiritual life. Now Prahalad, he is being very strict. They are watchful about him, and he is very quiet, a normal child, very quiet. He is not interested in the normal plaything like what other children do. So when the teachers were once they had gone out from the ashram, the other children who were of the same age as Prahalad, they were very happy to play with to talk to Prahalad because they liked whatever he talked. So immediately they went and approached him and they asked him to come and play with them. But Prahalad Maharaj, he said that he does not want to play because he says that is the useless way of materialistic life. He says materialist life is very useless. Now these children, they were small and innocent, and that's why they did not have much of asuric qualities, and they were ready to listen to Prahalada's teachings. So Prahalad is saying, Prahalad Maharaj says, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of life from the very beginning of life. In other words, from tender age of childhood to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. That is in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayato mahato bhaya. That is, even a slight amount of sincere devotion will protect one from the most dangerous situation. And what is the most dangerous situation? Falling into the animal kingdom. That is because of the karma. If we live an animal life, then our next life will be reduced to animal life. So when you do devotional service, there is a chance again of getting a human body or again going back to Godhead. Either one of these two things will happen. Sincere devotional service will lead you to the kingdom of God, back to your own home. But at least even the slight service you do will, in the next life, you will get a human body to continue your devotional service in the next life. Otherwise, you will fall into the most dangerous situation, that is, you have to become an animal. So we get in the life, we get a chance to return back to our original home. So that is what we have to try. Otherwise, there is no difference between us and the animals. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, Bhagavan says, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram suhrid sarva bhutanam nyatvam mam shanti richati. So he is teaching us how you can lead a peaceful life. That is Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam. He is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the Lord of all the universe. He is the Lord of all the demigods. Suhrida Sarva Bhutanam. He is the well-wisher of all the living entities. Of all the living entities. Not only human beings, but all the living entities. Nyatva Mam Shanti Richati. One who knows this, he will be in peace. So the conditioned souls are always searching for peace in the material world. Once they understand this peace formula, then they will know that they have to do devotional service to the Lord to live a peaceful life. So how do we do it? We may think that, okay, give up the material life, give up the material life. How is it possible? Do we need not earn money? How will we maintain ourselves? All these questions will arise for everybody. So the Lord says that in whatever position you are, in whatever constitutional position you are, and whatever prescribed duties you have, you should perform the prescribed duties. But while doing so, you should think of me and offer the results to me. In fact, in the when before the Kurukshetra war started, Arjuna, he actually wanted to fight the war for himself and for his family. But when he saw his family members, his grandfather and his teacher standing there in front of him, and all the family members standing against him, he thought, why should I kill everybody just to get a kingdom? So at that time, Krishna, he starts instructing him the Bhagavad Gita. When he surrenders to him, when Arjuna surrenders to Krishna, Krishna starts instructing that you are going to fight for dharma and you are going to fight for me. And that is why he says, Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha, that is, you fight, because as a Kshatriya, it is your duty to fight. So you fight, but fight thinking of me, means offering the results to Krishna, he must fight because he is fighting for dharma. So Prahalada, he is instructing all this. He is telling now from the very beginning of life, Brahmacharya system is introduced so that from one's very childhood, one can practice modifying one's human activities so as to engage perfectly in devotional service. The human form of life affords one a chance to return home back to Godhead. So Brahmacharya system, that is austerity, and the yoga system is taught. Earlier there was a Gurukula system where all the Brahmanas, Vaishyas and Kshatriyas, they were sent in the Gurukula system and they were taught the Brahmacharya system and the mystic yoga system so that they can perform austerity and they can renounce anything at the time when required. So this was taught at a very early age, and that's why we saw that the kings on those days, once they attained a particular age, they would just enthrone their son or whoever, and they would just renounce everything and they would walk to the forest. So that was the way they were trained from the very childhood, and that is why renouncing their life was not difficult for them. Whereas in modern age, nothing of this sort is taught in the school. What is taught is money is important to be earned, and money is everything in life. If you need a qualification, that qualification should be such that you should be able to earn money. That is the materialistic way of education which we are having in the present society, and that is why people, they find it very difficult to renounce, or they find that whatever they have earned is also not enough, and that is why leading to lot of mental problems. So we can see that how, because now we are not properly trained in the spiritual science or even in the material science, material world, the proper training is not given about religion and economic development, and it is leading to uh, wrong results. Like earlier, discipline, everything was there, but now whatever is taught is only to earn money, and that is why even in schools, the children have to be taught to de-stress themselves. They teach them to de-stress themselves, but they do not teach them the Brahmacharya system or the a disciplined way of how we should live this life. So if this endeavor for sense gratification and material happiness, only if this endeavor is performed, then there is lot of loss of time and energy with actually no profit. This is what he's saying. Prahlad said this in in the Treta Yuga, not Treta Yuga, in Satya Yuga. Prahlada said this in Satya Yuga, but now we can see this in the Kali Yuga, that how when people are only running after money, they are only wasting their life and energy, and they are not at all happy, they are not at all peaceful. In spite of having so much money, nobody is happy these days. Earlier, people had little money, but they were happy with whatever they had. There was satisfaction with what they had. But nowadays, everybody is having enough money, but nobody is satisfied. So, how he is explaining so nicely, is explaining how a human being is wasting his life. He says every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years. But for one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps for 12 hours. So every day when you sleep for 12 hours, now if your age is 100, average age is 100, and every night you sleep for 12 hours, so 50% of your life is gone in sleeping, means 50 years of your life is gone. Then at a tender age, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. So 10 years is gone in bewilderment. So 50 years is gone in sleeping, 10 years in bewilderment as a child. Then in boyhood, again 10 years is spent in sporting and playing. So another 10 years is gone. So 70 years is gone waste. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years. So 50 plus 10 plus 10 plus 20, so 90 years. And the remaining 10 years, what he does is he is wasting his time in satisfying his lusty desires. Now this is a chart which is given. See, 50 years of the time is lost in sleeping, 10 years in tender childhood, 10 years lost in sporting and playing, 20 years in old age, and 10 years in satisfying the lusty desires. So this is how a human life is wasted. Not only that, see, money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money? Now, especially in present day life, money is everything. If you are rich, you are respected irrespective of how you have earned the money, whether you have earned it by thieving or however, if you have enough money, you have rich, then you are respected by the people in the society. So now for earning money, people are ready to take any type of risk in life. Like now, for example, a thief also, he wants to steal money, he risks his life to steal money. The same way, a merchant, he wants to, he's traveling to another place by ship, risking his life, because during travel by ship anything can happen, but he's risking his life to go to another place just to earn money. So we see in this day, and from those days itself, that people who are very fond of money, they're ready to risk their life for earning money. They fail to understand the purpose of human life. They don't understand that this human life is for self realization, and they are wasting a lot of time only in accumulating money. That is, they waste lot of time, loss of time in their life. But even if a single farthing in their calculation of their money, that they do not miss. They are very careful about calculation of money, in that they are very shrewd, but when it comes to their life, they just waste it, and they are so ignorant about it. They do not want to um, take proper care of their spiritual life. In fact, they are not aware of the spiritual life. Those who are very extremely materialistic, they are unaware of spiritual life. They cannot understand that there is a life beyond this material life, and that is why they think money is everything. And the money, they do not even understand that money, as long as they're alive, they can use the money. Once they are gone, then what will happen? So they do not even think about that. The only intention now is that they should earn money. So Prahlada is explaining that my dear sons of demons, the supreme personality of Godhead Narayana is the original supreme soul, the father of all living entities. That he is saying he is the father of all living entities. In the Bhagavad Gita also, Bhagavan says, Aham Bija Pradapita, that is, I am the seed giving father of all living entities. So, our duty is, the living entities' duty is to serve Lord Narayana, to do devotional service to Lord Narayana, and not live like cats and dogs. We have to revive our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And he tells his friends that you show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in a devotional service, and thus becoming their well-wisher. So he wants to tell that you preach about devotional service to everybody. And even Bhagavan in the 18th chapter, 69th verse, he confirms that one who preaches about him and his glories, he is the dearest servant to Lord Krishna. And hence Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he always encouraged everybody to preach about the Lord and his glories. So a devotee is not interested in anything material. And because he is not interested in anything material, he can guide the conditioned souls to come out of the material entanglement. Now, Madhvacharya, he has mentioned that a karmi is a person who is totally interested in materialistic life. And a yogi, he is interested only in liberation. Whereas a devotee, he is not interested in both of these things. He is interested only in spreading the glories of the Lord wherever he goes. So nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes. They have seen the Supreme, and that is why they are very happy about spreading the glories of the Lord, and they do not want anything except for the service for the lotus feet of the Lord and spreading the message of the Lord to each and every person. Now, this confidential knowledge is extremely difficult to understand. What is that confidential knowledge? He says that dharma, artha, kama are ways to salvation. That is, Prahlad Maharaj is explaining to his friends that the Vedas explain dharma, artha, and kama are the three ways to salvation. But if one does not come to the spiritual platform, that is, after following the dharma, artha, and kama, if they do not come to the spiritual platform, then all the ceremonies which are performed based on Vedic instructions is totally useless. This is the same thing the Lord Krishna tells in um, Bhagavad Gita, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. That is, Arjuna, Vedas, they mainly deal with the three gunas. So you transcend these three gunas, O Arjuna. That is what the Lord is also telling in the Bhagavad Gita, and this is what is taught to Prahlad by Narada Muni. So he is telling this confidential knowledge is extremely difficult to understand, but it can be easily understood if one takes the shelter of a pure devotee. And he tells that this confidential knowledge was given to the great sage Narada by Lord Narayana, and he received these instructions from the great sage Narada himself. And this is called Bhagavata Dharma, which is completely scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is completely free from material contamination. So now when Prahlada is telling that he has received this instruction from Narada himself, now the children are curious to know what it is, how he received that. Now what we have learned from this is Krishna conscious movement is anxious to serve human society by bhakti, save human being from degraded again to animal life. That is, this movement actually, people are trying to tell the people, trying to remind them of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, and that their duty is, that is the Jaiva Dharma, is to do the devotional service to the Supreme Lord so that they will be saved from being degraded into animal life. So when he is saying that he has received this Bhagavad Dharma from the great sage Narada Muni, they ask, how is that we have only seen these masters, Sanda and Amarka only we have seen over here in the ashram. So how come that you are able to hear all these instructions from Narada? Where did you meet him? Where did you see him? How did you learn from him? These were the questions asked by the other children to Prahalada. And Prahalada, he explains, he says that when his father Hiranyakashipu went to the mountain known as Mandarachala to execute severe austerities. We saw in the last class he went to execute severe austerities so that he wants to become more powerful than Brahma, and he wanted to become immortal. So that is why he went to the Mandarachala mountain to perform great austerities, because only if he became very powerful could he kill the enemy or Hiranyaksha, that is the killer of Hiranyaksha, which is Lord Vishnu. So he says, if I have to kill Lord Vishnu, then I have to perform severe austerities. So Prahlad is saying, when my father went to the mountain to perform severe austerities, that time all the demons, they were scattered. That is, the demigods, they attacked them, and the demons, they did not have much strength to fight them, and they fled from there. So at that time, Kayadu, she was pregnant with Prahalad, and the demigods, thinking that she carried another demon in her womb, they arrested her. But Narada Muni, he appeared over there, and he said that the child within this woman's womb is divine. He is the devotee of Lord Vishnu, and therefore you should not do any harm to him. And he asks Indra to release Kayadu. Indra, being respectful to Narada, he releases Kayadu, who is Prahlad's mother. And Narada, he brought Kayadu to his ashram, because he knew the child growing in her womb was a great devotee of the Lord. And he assured her of all protection. So she asked him that let the child be in the womb till her husband returns. So Prahlad was in Kayadu's womb till Hiranyakashipu returned. So at that time, when the child was in the womb, Narada Muni, he started delivering instructions about the Supreme Lord to both the mother and the child. And the child within the womb was very carefully listening to all the instructions. But his mother, she being a woman, he says, she being a woman, she was always tired doing all the work. She used to be tired and sleepy, and she used to listen to some of the instructions. Sometimes she slept away, but I listened to all the instructions which the great sage Narada instructed. He says, the great sage Narada blessed me, and therefore I could remember all the instructions which he gave. So, what is a life lesson from that? When the child is in the womb itself, Krishna conscious should be taught. That's why when we say when the mother is pregnant, the surrounding should also be very pleasant. The mother should be kept very happy, and Krishna conscious should be taught. That is, all the teachings of the Lord should be imparted. So the child within the womb will listen everything and will turn out to be a devotee. This is the reason why the devotional service should start right from the womb. Nowadays, love people say, "Arey, no, this is not the age for us, yeah, to read the Bhagavad Gita um, or to listen to the Bhagavatam. For that, we have still time, you know. We don't need it now." They say that way. So we can say that now we have great personalities in this world, like there was, I can tell you a small story over here where one should understand that Bhagavad Gita should always be read by one and all. It need not be that you should learn only after retirement, but from this Prahlada's Charitram, we can understand that we should listen to the stories about the Lord and His glories right from the time the child is in the womb. I can tell you a small story where there was a young scientist who, while walking along the beach, he saw an elderly person. He was reading the Bhagavad Gita. So he went and just because he was an atheist, this young man, he was a scientist and he was an atheist, and he was very arrogant because of his intelligence. He saw that this person was sitting on the beach and he was reading the Bhagavad Gita. He went and sat beside him, and he's telling, "Why do you people waste so much time in reading these outdated books like the Bhagavad Gita? Instead of spending so much time, or instead of wasting so much time on reading the Bhagavad Gita, if you people would spend more time on science, then our country would have progressed so much by now," he says. So this elderly man, he does not say anything. He just asks him, "Who are you?" So he says, "I'm a young scientist. I have got a job now in Baba Atomic Research Center, and I'm going to join it shortly." So he says, "So you people also, you should not waste time in reading such books, but pay more attention to science." So the elderly man, he just smiles and he gets up. He does not say anything. He closes the book, and the moment he stands up, four bodyguards, they come running and they escort him to a car which comes over there. Immediately, this young man, he wonders who this person is, and he asks him, "Who are you?" So he says, "I am Vikram Sarabhai, the chairman of Baba Atomic Research Center." This young, arrogant fellow, once he hears this, that he is Vikram Sarabhai, he falls at his feet and he asks for forgiveness for talking to him like that. So he says, "Young man, behind every creation, there is a creator. So never forget that whatever may be the age, whether it is the present age or whether it is the age of Mahabharat, never forget God." He gives him that advice and he goes off. So we must not these days, children, those who read science, they think that it is silly to read about God, but actually the supreme scientist is the Lord himself. Like when we see how this earth, everything, all the planetary system, how much they are in order, how well they are moving in their own orbit without any disturbance, without any clash. So what a great scientist he should be, and how come they develop such uh, atheistic views? It's maybe because of the association. So that is why in the womb itself, strong teachings should be given to the child so that he will be able to discriminate from what is right and what is wrong. So what he learned in the womb, the illusionary conception of life in which one thinks that I am this material body and everything in relationship with this body is mine. So this is what we think, na? We think that I am this body, this is my house, this is my wife, this is my child, this is my husband, everything mine, mine, mine. So everything in connected with this material body. What we don't understand is this material body itself is temporary and it is going to vanquish at any time. So what is permanent is the soul within. So this a person in a material life, he does not understand, and this is what he was taught, that he was the eternal soul. Then one must understand the supreme personality of Godhead with one's intelligence. And he says, "My dear friends, O sons of the demons, your duty is to take to Krishna consciousness, which can burn the seed of fruitive activities." And he is saying that you must accept a spiritual master and render service unto him with great devotion and faith. Even in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, "Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas uh, tattvavidas." So, jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. That is, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and Render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart unto you because he has seen the truth. So the spiritual master has seen the truth. So by rendering service to him humbly and asking him questions humbly, the questions should not be challenging. It should be asked with due faith and humility. So the spiritual master will be able to guide the person. In fact, Lord Krishna, when he was having his leelas on this earth, he though he is a knower of everything, he is the source of everything. He accepted Sandipani Muni as his spiritual master to set an example to the world that a spiritual master is a person who can take you out of this material entanglement. So, in the association of saintly persons and devotees, one should worship the Lord, hear the glories of the Lord with faith, glorify the transcendental qualities and activities of the Lord, always meditate on the Lord's lotus feet, and worship the deity of the Lord strictly according to the injunctions of the Shastra and Guru. By these activities, one is able to cut down the influence of enemies, namely lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. So now here Hiranyakashipu thought that Lord Vishnu is his enemy, but actually each one of us, we have these six enemies. These six enemies are of the mind. um, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. That is lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and jealousy. These are the six enemies of the mind. So all of us, we have the six enemies within. We think that we have enemies outside, but these three are the permanent enemies which is within our mind. So we have to overcome this. How we can overcome this? By the above activities. That by worshipping the Lord, by hearing His glories, by hearing His transcendental activities, always meditating on the lotus feet, because by doing so, the chitta is purified, and once you get purified slowly and slowly, all these enemies, they are slowly reduced to ashes. So it is essential that one should worship the Lord, hear about the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam. First start hearing and then start chanting. So this is a must in every human being's life. Then the real problem of life. What is the real problem of life? It is the repetition of birth and death, which is like a wheel rolling repeatedly up and down. This wheel, however, completely stops when one is in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what we think, what problems we face day to day, we think those are the real problems. But those problems have solutions also. But what are the real problems? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. These are actually the real problems of life for which there is no solution. What is the solution? The only solution is to take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then you will not again get entangled in this wheel of life, repeated cycle of birth and death. Punarahi jananam, punarahi maranam, punarahi janani, jataye shayanam. That is, by taking birth again and again, we don't know in which mother's womb we are going to be born. Out of the 84 lakh species of living entities, we don't know in which womb we will be born again. So that is the real problem of the the living entity, that is the repeated cycle of birth and death. So if one has to come out of it, then one should be always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is all what Prahlada is telling his friends, that he has learned from Narada Muni when he was in the womb of his mother. Therefore, my dear friends, O sons of the Asuras, immediately begin meditating upon and worshipping the supreme soul within everyone's heart. So within our heart, we have the Paramatma. So he's saying you start worshipping him, and do not endeavor for material happiness. He's saying because if you go after material happiness, what you get is only material distress. That is, in material life, happiness and distress, they come without asking. Happiness also comes without asking, and distress also comes without asking. So you don't have to chase after happiness. Happiness will come. You don't have to chase after distress. Distress also will come. So happiness and distress depends upon the person's past activities. So that is why, instead of wasting time for endeavoring happiness in material life, you start to worshipping the Supreme Lord. So he's saying the four principles of advancement in spiritual life, that is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of devotees. Without desire, fully depend upon the disposition of the Supreme Lord. Worship Him, the Supreme Super Soul, in devotional service. So in this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all the revealed scriptures. So a pure devotee, he can see only Govinda everywhere. He can see Govinda in everything, Samadrishti. If he sees a bird, if he sees an animal, if he sees a tree, everything for him is only Govinda. We can give an example of Shuka. Shuka, the one who is telling Srimad Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. Shuka, he was in his mother's womb for 16 years. He did not want to come out of his mother's womb because he did not want to get entangled into this material world. Then finally, because of Vyasadev's prayers to Lord Vishnu, that he comes out as a 16-year-old boy. So after 16 years, he comes out, and as soon as he comes out of his mother's womb, he is walking naked along the streets, and his father is chasing him behind. Putra, Putra, his father keeps calling and going. So there, while Shuka was walking, there were some nymphs. They were taking bath in the lake, and when they saw Shuka, though he was walking naked and a young boy of 16 years old, they did not even bother to cover their bodies. But when Vyasadeva, he walked behind Shuka calling Putra, Putra, they, the moment they saw Vyasadeva, they immediately covered their bodies. So Vyasadeva was shocked to see this, and he says, "What is this? When my son, a young boy, is walking there naked, y'all see him and y'all don't even cover yourselves. And why I, when I am an old man, I'm coming here, you're covering yourself." So the ladies, they say, he is a self-realized soul. For him, a tree, an animal, a woman, a man, for him, there is no difference. He sees only God in everybody. He does not see the person as a different living entity. So that is why when he walked past for us, we knew that he only sees Govinda in everything. So this is how a true devotee would be. He would see the Lord in each and every thing. And for him also, the goal of life is only Govinda. So, what is the life's lesson? Whether in demigod society or asura society, human society or Gandharva society, every living entity should take the shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda and thus become perfect in good fortune. So, now always we are saying, take the lotus feet of the you surrender to the lotus feet of Mukunda, surrender to the lotus feet of Mukunda. Why are we saying this? Because only Mukunda can give us liberation from the repeated cycle of birth and death, and nobody else. Like Shankaracharya in Bhaja Govindam, he says Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate. He says always chant only the names of Govinda, because he is the only person who can liberate you from this repeated cycle of birth and death. So that is why we should take the shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda. So now all the sons of demons, they appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlada. That is, whatever Narada had taught Prahlada, he taught the Asura sons, who were almost over the same age as Prahlada, and they were very happy, and they, when they listened to the instructions of from Prahlada Maharaj. But then now, though the children were happy, now what happened now? When Hiranyakashipu comes to know that Prahlada has been doing this in the ashram, so what happens then? And when did Lord Dev appear? So this we will continue in the next session. So from this, what we hear is, in this Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has given us the easiest way, easiest process of remembering the Lord by chanting his holy names. So wherever, whatever place you are, you please chant the holy names. So the, because we are all bound by the gunas, that is the three ropes, they are so strong. We are bound, and we are finding it very difficult because of the strong Maya Shakti. We are finding it very difficult to come out of it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the easiest process. He says that whenever you're sleeping, walking, um, uh, or going to work, or you're waiting somewhere at a dispensary, or wherever you are, you keep chanting the holy names of the Lord. Always remember Him. And whatever duties, whatever prescribed duties you are doing, you offer all the results to the Lord. In this way, the life will be successful. So, Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada.